Douglas Nelson recently got hired by a pharmaceutical company in the small town of Virginia City, Montana. The company offered him a great starting salary. Although it had opened up for only about a year, it was doing quite well. Douglas used to live in Wyoming before he moved to Montana. After a hunt for a decent apartment, Douglas found a cozy studio near the shopping center, other small stores, and shops. His workplace was just a few bus stops away, and after working from 9 to 5, Douglas found himself a lot of time to explore the new area. Not many people lived in this town. The population was only about a few hundred. The people around here were nice, but they were different. Douglas wasn't sure whether he would call it different in a good way or a bad way. They had their own way of doing things around here. And he didn't know if it was sickness in truth, but a lot of people seemed to be suffering from anemia. They looked weak and haggard. Their skin was unusually pale and white. They had dark circles under their eyes and were awfully skinny, so skinny it looked like it hurt. Douglas was quite intrigued how a large part of the neighborhood could all be suffering from the same thing. It didn't make sense to him. Douglas spent some time with the neighboring people. He found them very peculiar. It was like they had sudden mood changes right in between their conversations. From happy to angry, or from sad to excited. And some people around here just seemed like they were delusional, in their own worlds, unaware of what was going on around them. Some of the shops had signs that were written in the wrong spelling, or sometimes the letters were written the other way around. This one time, while Douglas was at the gas station, a woman and a few of her friends walked into the small shop, laughing and gossiping amongst each other. They came to the cashier and started arguing with the young woman that was working there. It was when things started to get loud that Douglas came forward to see what the commotion was about. "This is unfair. You will allow others to take your services and you won't sell them to me and my friends? Miss, how many times will I tell you this is a gas station? You've come to the wrong place. I demand that you call the manager right now. Miss, I own this gas station and I work here alone. I'll have to call the police if you continue on with this." Turned out, the woman and her friends assumed that they had walked into a salon and were demanding to be given a manicure. When the cashier tried to explain to them, they pointed at the water bottles on the table and said that she was lying to them. There were bottles of shampoo and nail polish remover and whatnot, and she was hiding them. The woman wouldn't stop arguing, and the cashier ended up calling the police. Douglas had never in his life experienced something like that. Mistakes could happen, but not like this one. It was now about a week since Douglas had been working at the pharmaceutical company. Douglas got to know a few of his co-workers and got familiar with the building. He was a credit and collections analyst. He didn't really leave his office much. He was stuffed behind loads of files and paperwork throughout the day. Over the days, with the chances he got to walk around the building, he noticed a section on the 3rd floor had been sealed off. Only a few members were allowed to access it. When he asked about it, he was told that the company was working on a new drug, and it was still undergoing experiments. It was highly confidential and could be dangerous if others were exposed to it, so the company made extra special arrangements in the facility for its preparation. Douglas was interested in knowing what was so dangerous and top secret about the new medication, but nobody he asked seemed to know what exactly the medication was used for. He tried checking it out for himself, but all he could find out for sure was that the company had made a grand purchase from a small business that sold herbal goods. Whatever the case, Douglas put it aside and focused on his work. He was looking forward to his first weekend off in Virginia City. On the next Saturday, Douglas decided to explore the neighborhood. He went shopping and bought some household necessities he had been meaning to buy for the past week. By the time he had reached back home, he was tired. He didn't have the energy to cook up some dinner. So he thought of picking up something to eat at the small diner around the curb. Douglas walked inside. There were a few people having a drink or eating food. Douglas noticed one of his neighbors. She lived on the floor above him. From what he knew of her, she wasn't like the others. She looked healthy, and she seemed to be sane to him, although they hadn't gone past "hello, how are you" yet. She was sitting all alone, so Douglas walked up to her. "Do you mind if I sit?" No, of course not. Take a seat. I usually come here for dinner after work. Looks like I won't be having dinner alone tonight." "My name is Douglas Nelson. We haven't been introduced properly yet. I work at the pharmaceutical company, just 10 minutes away from here." "Oh yes, I'm familiar with that place. It opened up a year ago. My name is Samantha Carson. I'm a student. You're new here, right? So how are things? Do you like the place?" "Well, it's different from my hometown, but I'm getting used to it. I've noticed a lot of strange people live around here. Crazy, if you'd ask me." "Crazy? Who? Are you talking about that homeless guy in town?" "Excuse me? No, I'm not aware of who you're speaking of." "Well, it won't be long before you spot him. He's seen roaming around town, talking about weird things. He's actually quite young. I mean, maybe he's like 22 or something." 22? And homeless? "Yeah, I heard stories about him. He used to live nearby. He went to the local high school and all, but I don't know what happened to him after that. He suddenly showed up in this neighborhood, saying something horrible was happening in his area, and it was soon going to take over our neighborhood, and then the entire town, and soon spread all over the country. He was only a teenager at the time, probably a runaway. The police said there was nothing wrong whatsoever, and the fact of the matter was that he either lost his mind or he was just playing pranks to get attention. But some say he's truly insane. They tried admitting him into the asylum here, but he's been on the run. He's seen sleeping in the park one day or under the bridge the next. Sometimes he walks around picking up food from the deli. Nobody really talks to him anymore. They're scared of him. Because sometimes he has these unusual fits of anger. He starts behaving like he's an animal. Although it wears off after a while, people don't like taking chances around him. Well, there must be something to his story. He's so young. Why would he leave his home? And now he's living on the street? So unfortunate." As Samantha and Douglas conversed, the waiter came over with a tray of food. Douglas watched Samantha eat her steak while he picked on his own. Douglas hadn't been able to eat since he got to Virginia City. Most of the restaurants he went to didn't cook their food properly, including this diner. It was strange how Samantha didn't complain about it at all. She was enjoying that undercooked steak like it was the best thing in the world. There was bloody red juice dripping out on her plate, soaking up all her broccoli. It looked quite unappetizing, and honestly, Douglas felt like puking. He tried to look away and ate around the corners of a steak, the only part that seemed to be cooked, and threw away the rest. Samantha and Douglas walked back to the apartment building together. Douglas went to his apartment while Samantha went upstairs. Douglas had a great day, but he just couldn't forget the story Samantha told him. He kind of felt bad for the young man. It wasn't until a few days later that Douglas was shocked to see people running away from a man that entered into a shop. Douglas knew it was him the moment he spotted him. The young man didn't look like he was doing well. Douglas watched as the young man bought a bottle of water and headed out the door. Douglas followed after him. "Excuse me, young man." "I paid for it. I swear, I have the receipt." Douglas was shocked when he saw the scared expression on the young man's face. "It's all right, young man. I was calling you because I wanted to talk to you. I've heard a lot about you, but I'm having a hard time digesting all the stories. Where are you from?" They didn't believe me, and now it's spreading amongst them, and they don't even realize it. It's a herbal concoction they're all taking. They think it helps them, but it does nothing but harm. I ran away from my family years ago. I don't know how they're doing, but they turned like that. Like maniacs, after they started having that herbal mixture. These people think I'm crazy, but I'm only telling them the truth. Soon, this whole town will be doomed. They're having it in their food, in their drink. They're all going insane, and they think it's just me. As soon as Douglas heard the young man say something about a herbal mixture, Douglas could only think of one thing. Had this anything to do with what the pharmaceutical company was currently producing? Perhaps this young man wasn't insane. Maybe he was onto something. Douglas had found the matter suspicious himself, and the way some people behaved around here, it was so unnatural and odd. This looked like a mystery Douglas had to get to the bottom of. "Don't worry, young man. I can help you out. Perhaps we should discuss this matter somewhere private. What's your name?" My name is Jimmy. No, Jamie. Jimmy. My name is Jimmy. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.